What to do, YouTube? This is Asteroid. So I'm going to talk about Chippy Nonstop's 2013 EP slash album, Finally Verified. So the thing about this, Chippy Nonstop kind of scrubbed away her catalog, so it's not really available that much anymore. She's kind of like a promoter and kind of like a rave, kind of electronic EDM type musician. So she does still have some things up, but it's just not in the abundance that it was back in 2012 and 2013 when she was still around. I mean, back when she was affiliated with like Kitty and Krayshawn and like Lil Debbie and those type people, it just kind of felt like that was more of her being like a female rapper type stuff and that sort of thing. But I will show this project just because there's not. I bought the album. There was only one copy of this left, and I don't know if there's pictures circulating of this album around. So this is it right here. This is Chippy Nonstop. She's getting some brain from a thick woman right there. And this is kind of a difficult item to find. It's not on Amazon anymore. I don't know if it's on eBay. And I kind of feel like it's just a hot ticket. And that's kind of the concept about it. I almost, if it weren't for the fact that this was on Amazon, I wouldn't have even known that Chippy Nonstop made this project. I mean, I look at websites that I visit like discogs.com and some of those type places. It doesn't even have information about the fact that Chippy Nonstop made this project. So it barely knows about the album that I reviewed, or the mixtape I reviewed back in November called what was that one called? Global School of Twerk. So that's this kind of thing. It's just kind of, this is uncharted territory as far as talking about Chippy Nonstop, just because these projects are not necessarily around anymore, or they may be around, but they're just not vastly known about to the extent of kind of saying about that. So that's kind of the concept. There's 6 songs on this album. I would definitely consider yourself lucky if you own this project. It's definitely worth getting. It is a quality project. It's going to get a pretty high score. I don't know what the singles were. I know Chippy Nonstop. I don't know what the singles were. I'm assuming that one of the singles was Pimpin' Season, because she did make some music videos to some of the songs off this album, so you can at least find songs from it, but she doesn't really blatantly kind of talk about the fact that this was off a project. So it's just kind of the thing. I think at least Pimpin' Season and possibly Bang Bang have music videos for them. I remember looking them up a few months ago. I guess I could do it. Yeah, there's just not a ton of information about this project, but I did look online on YouTube. There is at least an official music video for Pimpin' Season. So if you saw that song and you wonder where it came from, this is the album that it came from and such. So to talk about Pimpin' Season, basically this song is kind of like a nice kind of entry. This one just kind of feels like a mingling song, just showed up, kind of like a pull-up song. There's actually some pull-up songs on here, getting ready to stunt, kind of the introductory, kind of making acquaintances type stuff on some of those type beat. Has a real nice kind of bubbly, kind of flashy, kind of club type beat on here, but it's just kind of more in a sense of, I mean, I feel like this project kind of has more house party feels. I mean, I can see some of this being played in a club, but I feel like some of this music could be played at a club. But I do see this in a lot of ways as like house party music. But this is just kind of like a pound, get some dap kind of song, that type of stuff. Just kind of hanging out maybe in the front yard, something like that, those type moments. But it is a nice one. So I'm gonna go ahead and recommend the 5 songs out of 6 that I recommend. So this is kind of like a snappy kind of review and stuff, but I do have some stuff to say about it. So the only song I don't recommend is just number 1. The other 5 songs I'll talk about. So those 5 songs are Geeked Up Off This Cake, Pimpin' Season, Bang Bang, Bubblegum, and Ether. So I kind of feel like the concept, I've already talked about Pimpin' Season. Like I said, that's a nice kind of getting dap, kind of mingling a little bit type song with a nice kind of bop-ish kind of beat bloop kind of club type beat in there. It's difficult to kind of describe, but that's a nice one. Geeked Up Off This Cake is a pretty solid entry kind of club song. Geeked Up Off This Cake is a pretty crazy, getting ready to get rave type song. I definitely like the energy on this one, especially on Chippy's verse, where the verse really kind of, I mean, at the beginning of the song, I like the beat a lot, but then I also like how it kind of got crazier later. It just kind of felt a lot more hype, where the shots are going and the twerking starting and that type of stuff. It's just nice. I like Buckwheat Bill on there. They both did a good job. I've never heard of Buckwheat Bill. I wonder if he has any albums out or stuff like that, but it's just kind of, yeah, it's just a nice, pretty crazy rave kind of club type song. Can also be played in a house party, but this is definitely one I think that could get some folks moving and that type of stuff, get the bodies moving and such. This has a lot of rave kind of crazy energy. I definitely like the kind of syrupy, kind of this entrancing kind of beat on there. Like Bang Bang is a real nice house party song. This is probably the best house party song on here. This is kind of one where the women show up and they're just kind of looking nice and looking dressed to impress and they're looking sexy as hell and that type of stuff. Definitely feel like that's kind of a nice vibe for that. It's kind of, hey, Chippy looks really nice type song. This kind of one of those type situations that you notice the mingling's kind of going on. I just feel, I mean, it really kind of has like a kind of slinky kind of this pretty relatively mid-tempo energy, but it is kind of, I would have to say, yeah, Bang Bang has a nice mid-tempo energy, but it kind of reminds me of like a more recent kind of version of a song like Gin and Juice or something. It just kind of feels like more of like house music more so than like straight up at the club in that sort of moment. But it can, I feel like this is a pretty social album. So it's just the concept is whether you're outgoing and you hear this or you're indoors and you hear this, it's still pretty rave type energy for just kind of vibing and that sort of stuff. So this whole album is basically a vibe, I just would have to say. Bubblegum with Kitty, who Kitty is a rapper. If you have this project and you know about Kitty, she's kind of a mixtape rapper that did some stuff. She's similar to Krayshawn and stuff and Lil Debbie and V Nasty and some of them. And this is kind of like, to me, this reminded me of like a house party kind of twerk song where you don't need strippers, but it's just kind of more of like girls that just show up and start twerking and that sort of stuff. Definitely kind of a dance song, just more with the women in mind, I would have to say. It was difficult. I don't know Kitty that well, so I couldn't distinguish her voice from Chippy's on the song, but I think they both, I do want to say that Kitty dropped a verse on here, but I just don't know her well enough to really distinguish the difference because they sounded similar. So that's kind of the concept. But they both did a good job on there. It's a nice female dancing song. And Ether was a nice. This is a pull up song. This is definitely one I think for just flossing and kind of cruising in a ride in a slow creep and that sort of moment. Just had a nice kind of. This is another kind of. Yeah, I definitely like the kind of rave kind of production on here. It just felt like something that like Honey Cocaine would do. One of those kind of glossy, kind of stepping out, this real crunchy kind of club beats on here. It's difficult to kind of describe. Just had like, I don't want to say piano. It definitely wasn't piano keys, but this kind of like the the key. It had some sort of keys on there, something like that. Just nice keys. Just something that you would hear typically Thursday, Friday night type stuff. Definite kind of slow creep kind of song. Let the bass hit and that sort of thing. This is a nice one for kind of stunting and getting ready to go to a house party or even to a dance club, something like that. But I would have to say like Pimpin' Season and Geeked Up Off This Cake remind me of the more outgoing kind of songs. And Bang Bang and Ether are kind of like the more near the house kind of songs. And then I would say Bubblegum is definitely more of a house kind of song too, but that one's just more of a dance ready kind of house song. So that's kind of the concept about it. But to talk about the only song on this project that I didn't enjoy was just number one. And this is kind of another one that's kind of more at the house, kind of very similar to Bang Bang and stuff, but just a lot more of like a slower kind of just winding kind of song, women whine type song, that sort of thing. And but it just wasn't convincing. It wasn't quite as sultry and it wasn't quite as rousing as I would have liked it to have been. I just felt like the kind of sing-songiness on the song just wasn't quite rousing enough. I mean, that one was about the only real odd duck out of the whole project, but the rest of it is just like a real jolt of house party and kind of mid-tempo, mid-club kind of stepping out kind of feels about it. This is perfect for a shot in the arm as far as like a nice loud pack and night pack for a little while. Definitely worked as far as that context kind of goes, but to take a look at this project again, just to kind of be able to say it, this is definitely one that you want to get. It's hashtag finally verified. Came out in June of 2013, June or July of 2013. Has 6 songs on there. And I just would have to say it's worth the purchase as far as getting if you can find it. And just I don't know how much of the manufacturers still make it, just because Chippy just doesn't have her music readily available like that. And songs like projects like Global School of Twerk and the other project that she did in 2012, Money Dance 101, hashtag Money Dance 101, is not really available that much either. So it's just kind of, that's the concept about it. Is Chippy's kind of a hot ticket and hard to find. So it's just worthwhile to kind of pick these up and mess with them as you can find them. Definitely get it if you find it because it's got some rave litty music. So I'm going to give this mixtape, or not this, I'm going to give this EP a 9 out of 10 because this is really kind of litty stuff here. I definitely feel like this is just a hot ticket and just a good overall nice package of stepping out, especially for 2013. This is just very low-key type stuff that is kind of underappreciated. And it's too bad that this, Chippy didn't get a glossary of more popularity. I mean, she is popular, but just she didn't get more like dap and kind of stuff like that, kind of credibility as far as like her musical onslaught, just because I kind of look after it and it just feels like the manufacturer needs to kind of put this out. It's a sin that there's not more of these projects available, just because it's like, hey, where did this stuff go and why isn't it here? And that's kind of the concept about it. But it is good. It's a 9 out of 10. The social score I'll give a 10 out of 10, just because I feel like all 6 of these songs are meant for stepping out and having some sort of social degree about it. So that's definitely kind of the concept. It's just got an overall great feeling. So I would definitely look into this in that sort of situation. That's kind of the concept about it. In terms of the future, like Chippy has kind of done some house party type music. She's still kind of affiliated with music, but she's just kind of more in like the night scene and the promoter type scene and just kind of doing more turntable type stuff and some of that type mess. But I just would have to say I do like her discography and I'm going to have to review some more of these.